My friends, we have made it. This is the campsite that I'm going to stay at tonight. You may recognize this location from a few episodes back. I came out here, I did a truck camp. I set up the truck out there in the field and had an awesome time. Some killer storms came through, everything flooded. It was a great trip. After that trip was over, I was driving out of this area. I came across a ranger. So I put my window down, started talking to him, and he let me know that this area will soon be shut off from the public. As far as vehicles go, you could still hike out here, you could still camp and so on. So I was curious whether or not they closed the road to this place. So I've hiked up, I've explored the road, and the answer is no, it's not closed. So really I could have just driven here, but that's okay. I've taken the long roundabout way up through the woods on an old trail that pretty much doesn't exist anymore. I'm not even sure if this trail has a name, to be honest with you. But no matter what, got the hiking done, we're at the campsite. Let's go ahead and begin setting up. Everyone, all of a sudden, it has gotten really, really dark. Because of that, I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to go ahead and set up my tarp real quick. Let's get to work, let's get safe, then we'll chat more. Everybody, it just started raining. It's light, like really, really light. Plus, it hasn't gone through the canopy yet. You'll have to take my word on it. I don't really have time to show it to you. I have to get this set up just in case this is part of a bigger system, maybe a thunderstorm or something like that. And just like that, the rain has stopped as soon as we basically got the tarp set up. That is how it goes sometimes. That's funny. I want you all to pay attention to the way that I have this tarp set up. You can see here that I've taken this guy line and I've tied it to this rock. That way, basically, we can pull the center of this tarp down. So if it rains really, really hard, all of the water is going to sheet and roll away from us instead of pull on top. Pulling on top is something that can happen anytime that you have a tarp set up and the walls aren't almost vertical. So let's say that you have an A-frame set up and the walls are very steep. You're not going to have to worry about pulling. But if you have the walls carried out some, in other words, you have the tarp set up more for airflow than protection, pulling is a possibility, especially in heavy rainfall. What will happen is, in a light rain, it'll run off. But if it starts raining super, super hard, the rain will overwhelm the tarp material, it will stretch it and begin pulling. And if you're not careful, if you're not taking care of it, it can rip the tarp down or even pull the trees out of the ground. That takes me back to a wintertime trip that I did some years back, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. It was an ice storm, right? So I came out for a trip, I set up a tarp, and it was raining, tons of ice and whatnot. Well, that night I went to bed, and that's when it really kicked in. The water began to pull on the tarp, and it ended up ripping the trees out of the ground. The tarp didn't tear up, but the trees came out and landed like right next to me. Luckily, the trees weren't too big. I wasn't in danger of getting killed or anything like that. But if one of those trees did hit me, it definitely would have woke me up. It probably would have hurt. As you all can see here, I have the tent set up away from my tarp, and that's because I'm gear testing. If I wasn't gear testing, I would set it up underneath this tarp later on tonight. What I have here is the Mountain Smith Lichen one-person tent. This is a tent that's somewhat similar to the Thunder. A new element, a new twist. Anyways, this is a tent that's similar to the Snugpak Ionosphere, but it's actually a little bit different. The front of this tent is definitely different. It's taller, it's much easier to get into, and I personally like that. I like the color quite a bit. I do have a preview on this tent that I highly recommend that you check out, as I don't want to talk about it too much in this episode, so we'll see how it goes as far as waterproofness and so on later on tonight if it rains. Before I get my site ready underneath the tarp, let's talk about the placement of this tent here. You might be able to see this, you might not be able to, but this is not level territory here. There is a slope to the land, and that's because there really isn't anything flat in this area that's suitable for a good tent setup. There is a location over here that's rather flat, but if you look at the ground above it, you can tell that it's a wash. All of the water, when it's raining really heavy, washes down the hill into that location. So that's not a good place. Where I set up the tent here, it's completely manageable. It's not so steep that I'll be sliding off my pad, but at the same time, all of the rainwater is going to be going away from my tent. That's important. When it comes to backpacking and camping, oftentimes you have to forget about things being flat, things being level. That's a luxury that you're not always given. So you take what you get, you do your best with it, and that's that. The storm that's to our north, it's going by us. But the sky over here towards the south, it's actually fairly dark. You never know, everybody. It might start raining here in just a bit. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. What the flying f was that? Was that an eagle? Folks, I think that was a bald eagle, and it was up in this tree here. The camera should have picked up the audio on that. All I know was that that bird was gigantic. I just got coffee done, everybody, and as soon as I did, I saw a flash, and then like 1 second later, crack! There's a big thunderbolt right behind me. It was intense. Unfortunately, I had just turned the camera off. We are surrounded by thunderstorms at the moment. Is it going to rain? I have no idea. I haven't had time to check the radar. With that being said, though, anything could happen. Just in case you're wondering what I lit in camp, that is a sort of bug repellent. In this area, we have a lot of black flies. They're really, really small. They don't bite, but they are annoying. So I lit that up, and that little bit of smoke got rid of all of them. Anyways, folks, I've been standing out here for the last 5 minutes just staring at the clouds, questioning what is going to happen. As it stands right now, I think we're in good shape. I think we're protected. All of the storms are basically going around us at the time being. I do not see anything threatening at the moment, but these cells, they're rather close. For an example, with that lightning strike, it was close. That time, I saw the flash. If you're ever watching an adventure where you hear lightning but you don't see the lightning flashes, that's okay, that makes sense. You will only see the lightning flashes when the lightning's really, really close. It really does depend on like how dark it is, how close the lightning is, and also how dense and thick the forest is. Because if the forest is really thick, the lightning bolt's basically got to be like right overhead, striking right next to you to see it. As I've been staring at the sky here for like the last 5 minutes or so, like I said, I have noticed that there's a shift in the fog and it looks like it's coming this way. So it's entirely possible that maybe within the hour it will be foggy up here. Maybe it will rain, maybe it will storm, maybe it will get foggy. Who knows? I don't know. And now folks, we're up in the clouds. It took about 35 minutes, but it happened. We're surrounded in fog, clouds. I'm still hearing thunder. I was walking back towards the campsite, everybody. That's when I heard a loud clap of thunder. This time, a little bit to like my southeast. It's raining, everyone. It's incredibly light, but it is raining. It's like the second time that it's rained in the last 20 minutes. Very little showers, in and out. As far as the time goes, it is 6 o'clock. By 7 o'clock, it will be dark. Dinner is rehydrating, and I'm ready to wrap up the evening, you know what I mean? I'm ready to see what's going to happen as far as the weather goes. Hopefully it'll be like last night. Last night, it was just non-stop storms. Lightning, just thunder, it was crazy. Alright everyone, it is time to eat. Basically, this is spaghetti. This meal's so good. Every single time, it is amazing. Man, that is good. These real termite meals, I've talked about them before. They are incredible. Unfortunately, they're really difficult to get here in the US. If you can get them, they're going to cost a lot. One of the biggest issues is that customs likes to confiscate these. So even if you place an order with a company, you're not guaranteed to get it because customs can take it. It's a real shame. Like this spaghetti here, oh man, it is grade 10. And you know what that means. It's awesome. Over the last couple of adventures, I've mentioned how warm it's been, like temperatures in the 80s and whatnot. Well, I'm glad to announce that all of that is over. It's not to say that we're not going to have any more warm weather, but as far as the forecast goes for the next month, there's no warm weather in sight. We have temperatures in the lower 60s at nighttime, temps in the 40s. How about that? Fall is here, and I cannot wait. Sweater weather is my favorite. Now this might be a mistake. Maybe not too bad of one, but it's 6:30. I have some coffee left over. Sometime back, I sent my buddy V with Outdoors with V, the set. I sent him some coffee. And on one of his adventures, he drank it. He sent me a text message the other day, and he said this about that coffee. Holy blank, I won't be doing that again. Energy was through the roof. You're crazy, my friend. More power to you. That is so funny. I like my coffee really strong. I'll sleep when I'm dead, you know what I mean? That strong. So, cheers to Outdoors with V. Make sure to go over there and check out his channel. He is a cool dude. He has a new adventure coming up soon, which likely has gone up actually before this one, so scratch that. But I'm sure he does have content. I feel like I'm talking 1,000 miles an hour. Check out his channel, everybody. He is definitely a cool guy. Cheers, my friends. Cheers. It is raining out there again. Like, it's super light. It really hasn't even gotten its way through the canopy yet. You might be able to hear it like pattering on the tarp. With the fall weather, it's almost like a switch was flipped. All of a sudden, cool. It's one of those things where it's still warm during the day, not necessarily hot, but warm. But as soon as you get into the shade, you can feel the difference. There's like this nip to the air, just this little bit of like underlining coolness that comes with fall, and it's here. It really does have me excited for winter. And that's because every single long-range winter forecast has us absolutely getting smashed by snow. Big snowstorms, colder than average, more snow than average. I really do hope that's the case, everybody. I really do. All I want for Christmas is some snow. I tell you what, talking about rain, I am excited for like the fall weather to come in. Not only because of the cooler conditions, but oftentimes in the fall we have those strong fronts that come through that give us like multi-day rain events. That way I can get back to filming the Legit or series. I love that series. It's a ton of fun. That's where we go to like every department store, every website, and we find like the cheapest tent that they offer. We test it out and we decide together whether or not it's legit or That series was a ton of fun. Everybody loved it. To me, it's more like calling these companies out for selling garbage, right? It's all about discovering which companies care and which ones don't. That's what I like to do here on the channel. I have no problem calling these companies out. I've been doing it for 10 years, and I can tell you that I've burned some bridges. There's a reason why companies do not want to send me products to test out. And I'm talking about like big name brand companies. It's because those companies cannot take a chance on a product failure in a video going out. They'll send products to other YouTube channels that they can pay and basically purchase the review, but they can't do that here with this channel. If it's good, I say so. If it's bad, I say so. If the product's terrible, I issue a warning. I explain why and I show why. With most companies, it's all about profits. It's not even about keeping their customers safe or anything like that, unfortunately. Because the Outdoor Gear Review is agenda free, I purchase just about everything that you see me use. Everything that I review. That way I can give it to you straight. Again, if it's good, I can say so. If it's bad, I can say so. To make all of this possible, I have to give a big shout out to my YouTube members and also my Patreon donators. You all do a ton to help this channel make it what it is, and I really do appreciate it. Speaking of which, if you decide that you want to support the channel in such a way, when you become a member, when you become a Patreon donator, you get access to information before anyone else does. So if there's a product that's good, you'll get access to that information first before it sells out. Because when I put up a review and the product is good, it typically sells out instantly. At the same time, you'll learn when products fail. Also, you'll learn about the trips that I go on, get full trip reports. You'll get shout outs and recognition during the reviews and the adventures. You can message me anytime you have a question and you will get an answer. And you're supporting a channel that's agenda free. Anyways, folks, I have 2 shout outs that I want to give real quick. The first shout out goes to Chief. Thank you so much for what you did, buddy. You absolutely blew my mind, and it really touched me, man. I really do appreciate it. Basically, he contacted me asking for a photo for his daughter that I had taken. In my opinion, a beautiful shot. You have the ocean. Basically, it's a storm system over the ocean with a lightning bolt striking the ocean itself. He offered to buy the photo. I said, no way, you can have it, so I sent it to him. And what do you know? He got it printed on this piece of metal, like a metal printing, and it is gorgeous. My friend, thank you so much. I really, really, really appreciate it. The next shout out is for Mike Wilson. My friend, I want you to keep fighting the good fight. Mike is going through cancer treatments right now, so buddy, don't give up. Cooling down quite a bit, everybody. You get to see my breath. It's gonna be a good evening. With these cooler temperatures, I'm gonna sleep so good. I think today it got up to like 72 maybe, but like tomorrow it's supposed to be like a high of like 65 or something. Every single day just getting cooler and cooler. Already the forest and all the flowers and the trees and everything has that fall look already. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's that like dried out, sun-baked sort of look. Right before everything dies, that sort of thing. In this area for sure, it's got it. The road up here is lined with leaves. The trail was just covered in leaves. Oh man, I'm excited. I'm excited for winter. I really am. Last year I didn't have high hopes for it, so I tried to keep my expectations in check. Hopefully this year will be different. I've again taken a look at multiple long-range winter forecasts, and all of them say it's going to be colder than normal, more snow than average, so we shall see. I was standing here staring at the tent. Again, that's the Mountain Smith Lichen one-person tent. As I mentioned earlier, I am testing this out for the first time. This is the second time that I've set it up, but the first time that I've waterproof tested it. Just because I'm doing that, I do not recommend that you do it. Anytime that you purchase a tent, you should set it up in your yard, let it go through a waterproof test before you take it out, if at all possible. I know some people will not be able to do that, but it really is best to waterproof test your gear before you take it out and rely on it. If this tent happens to leak tonight, I'm fully prepared to cowboy camp right here on the ground. It'll be alright. I prefer not to cowboy camp, but I will. I have the feeling it's going to be a wet night. The rain's been getting heavier and heavier. It's finally making its way through the canopy. Now that it's started dripping, it's not going to stop. It's time for another update, everyone. It's about 9:30. As soon as I get the chance, I'm going to hop in the tent and call it a night. But it's gonna have to slack up just a little bit before I make the run for it. I have some good news. I've made it inside of the tent. I'm mostly dry, and now I'm ready for the night, ready for sleep. We'll see if I can go to sleep after drinking that coffee. Whew. It was powerful, but it was good. So far, the tent does not appear to have leaked at all. I will say that getting inside of this without soaking everything is very, very difficult. I'm glad to be inside of this tent. Right now, it is really, really windy out there. I'm going to take off some of these clothes, going to relax. I will see you all in the morning. Good night for now, everybody. See you soon. Good morning, everyone. It is now 6 o'clock in the morning. The temperature readout says 63, but that's not accurate. Not accurate for this elevation. Right now it's in the lower 50s. It's actually quite cool. As you all can see, we're back up in the clouds, in the fog. It has not been that way the entire night. It rained for a few hours before I went to sleep, and then it slacked off. At 4 o'clock, I woke up hearing thunder. Opened up the tent, it was perfectly clear out, and I was seeing flashes. Get this, by 4:15, I was dressed, ready to go film the lightning. That's when it stopped. It was over. So I got dressed, opened up the tent for absolutely nothing. So I've been up since then, couldn't go back to sleep. It is what it is. That's how it goes. Everybody, let's make some coffee. Let's get this morning underway. Friends, it is coffee time. Cheers, everyone. That is a good cup of coffee. Daybreak is here. The sun's beginning to come up. Still foggy and cloudy. I don't know if we'll see the sun or not, but it's possible. Last night when I was inside of the tent, I kept thinking about fall and winter coming in. I was laying on my sleeping pad, which is a non-insulated sleeping pad, and I could feel the coolness from the ground coming up through it. And I was just thinking, like, it's time to get out the four-season pad. I'm gonna have to start packing some warmer gear. The last time that I had service, it said that it was going to rain and storm today. I don't know if it's coming in this morning or later on this afternoon, but my plan is basically to pack everything up, basically as soon as I get done with my coffee, and get out of here. I'll tell you what, let's have breakfast, and let's eat this applesauce pound cake. This came out of an MRE. It's pretty good, actually. It definitely looks pounded, though. Mm-hmm. Overall, folks, this is not bad. All in all, this has been an awesome trip. I really have had a good time. I was interested in coming back here to see if the road was closed, which it's not. The individual that I spoke to made it sound like that was an imminent thing, like it was coming up very soon. So I don't know if that means like a few more weeks, a couple more months. I have no idea. Anyways, I'm going to finish this up and begin packing everything up, and I'll bring you all back when it's time to put on my backpack. Cheers, everyone. Everything has been packed up and now it's time to go. Thank you so much for joining me for this trip. I really do appreciate it. I hope you all have had a great time. If you have, hit the thumbs up, it helps a lot. If you're new here, consider subscribing. I appreciate that as well. Bye. By the way, make sure to check out my second channel. It's called A Quiet Place Adventures. It features adventures just like this, but with no talking. With that, it is time for me to say goodbye. My plan was to hike out with you, but as you all can see, we're back up in the clouds, back up in the fog, it's starting to drip again. I don't know if rain's coming or not. My phone's not working at the moment, no service. That's the thing about this place. Very little service. That's especially true when rain is coming in. It blocks the signal. I'll say goodbye for now. Everyone take care, be well. Strength and honor.